What is going on, guys? Today we are recording in the basement as it is muggy and humid and pretty horrible and damp outside, so I had to make this little makeshift studio on my zero budget. Today we're going to be talking about plantar fasciitis, so it's something I've been suffering from recently. If you don't know what it is, you're going to find out. If you need to treat it, you're going to see what's worked for me and what doesn't work for me. So I'm going to split into a couple of videos so we can cover all bases. Firstly though, a note, I am not a doctor, I don't have any medical training. All the information and advice I'm giving is my own personal opinion. If you choose to take my advice to help treat your plantar fasciitis, that is on your head. Alright, let's get into it. Alrighty, so first of all, apologies for having to look at my disgusting feet, but at least you don't have to look at them every single day like I do. So, what is plantar fasciitis and how do you get it? Well, along the bottom of the foot here, this is where you have a ligament, and that is called the plantar fascia. It joins at the heel, runs all the way up to your toes, and actually if you pull back on your toes like this, you can feel the plantar fascia tighten here. If you relax, you won't feel it as you pull, and in fact you think you can see on the camera there, mine just pop out a little bit. So the job of the plantar fascia there is to support the arch of your foot, help it to flex in a proper manner. And if the plantar fascia becomes strained, you're going to start to feel pain, normally along the ligament itself at first, and then in the heel. And most commonly, that's where people have the real problem of getting rid of the pain, is in the heel here. This is where the lingering pain is for a lot of people, and it becomes a very uncomfortable thing to walk on. If it's left untreated and continues to be put under stress, then the fibers can actually start to tear, which is only going to add to the pain, and obviously means longer healing time. So, every time you take a step, which is thousands of times a day, the ligament moves with each step and aggravates the damaged area. So, as we need to walk around to get through daily life, this becomes a pretty lengthy thing to have to treat and fix, as we're rarely able to give it enough rest. We all have to make money, we all have to do the daily basics in life, getting up, walking around to do the basic things. So there's no getting around having to do some sort of walking throughout the day. So how do you get plantar fasciitis? Well, in my case, it was a running injury. It was probably a combination of doing too much too soon and wearing the wrong kind of footwear for me at that time in my training. The shoe I mentioned last time, the Nike Flyknit Racer, it's renowned as being I guess a very popular shoe for marathon. It certainly was last year, so obviously a lot of people do run in it and it works for them. I think it was just a new shoe for me, that a different kind of shoe that just wasn't working for me right now and just added to my problem. So I definitely think that for me it was some sort of repetitive impact trauma, and that combination of doing too much too soon. It is one of the more common running injuries. I think about 10% of all runners actually have it, but it isn't just a sports related injury. You can get it in other ways. Another really common way is if you're overweight. So all that added extra weight, all that added extra force on your heel, on the fascia every time you walk or move, can just become too much for the fascia to take. So eventually it becomes strained, and then obviously for someone who is a little overweight, it can be a difficult thing to fix without losing that weight. But there are quick fixes and there are longer term fixes. However, from what I've heard, it seems to be, most people say that once you've had it, it's going to be something which comes back to bite you throughout your life. So I think you just got to do what you can to keep it at bay. And there are some things I've done which have worked for me, some things that haven't. So how do you treat plantar fasciitis? Well, I guarantee you when you get it, you're going to be trawling through the internet trying to find out what has worked for other people, and you're going to come across a ton of conflicting information. However, from my experience, there's been one thing which every single person has said has worked for them, and that has been the stretching. So just be prepared. You're going to have to stretch probably 4 to 5 times a day, different muscles. I'll talk about those in the next video, but for sure there's one bit of information that I can almost guarantee is reliable. Other stuff though is kind of debatable. So ice versus heat. Some people say you should ice foot, some people say actually you should heat it. So what does icing do? What does heat do? Well, icing is going to take down inflammation, and when you first get plantar fasciitis, especially the heel area, but even along the bottom here is going to become really inflamed and super swollen. Really the only way to be able to walk on it and even move it that comfortably is going to be to take down the inflammation. So yes, I think icing is good up to a certain stage. I have found the last week or two I haven't really been icing anymore. The main bulk of my inflammation has gone down, and actually I found that it doesn't matter how much I ice this area of my heel now, the inflammation doesn't go down at all, so it seems kind of pointless to me now. I can still feel the inflammation. I don't know if it's just because it's such a tough area to get through, or it's just so inflamed that the inflammation isn't going down. So I think up to a certain point when you're not seeing any results from it anymore, you should probably just stop. Heating. So heat is going to increase blood flow, which is actually going to increase inflammation, but it's also going to get more blood to the area, which is going to help repair the wound quicker. So there is some sense in that. And inflammation is not necessarily a bad thing. Inflammation is the body's natural way of creating, I guess, some sort of structure around the damage to help with the repair and to stop any further damage. So there is an argument for getting rid of the inflammation is actually leaving the area a little bit more open to further damage. I did heat for a little while to see what the difference it made, and to be honest, I didn't see any great improvement. So I would say ice over heat. Ice is the way to go. So insoles and orthotics, should you wear them? If so, how long for? And are they even for you? So there is a big argument out there, and it's probably one of the biggest debates that people have about how to treat this. Is a lot of people say you should wear orthotics or insoles. So what they are basically a support inside your shoe. So that insole you already have in there, you can take that out and put in a supportive insole that will basically, as you walk, it won't allow the fascia to bend all the way, which takes some of the strain off it, some of the pressure off it, and the idea is then that is going to help with the healing process, as it's not going to be under so much pressure. So if you at the opposite side of that, is barefoot. So the best way to strengthen your foot is to walk in as naturally a way as possible, I guess. Allow the fascia to actually bend and move to its full capacity, because that is the way we're naturally meant to be, and by allowing your foot to do that, it's going to be able to strengthen it in the best way possible. Also, by going barefoot, not having all that support, you're able to strengthen other muscles in your foot, which should in the long term help combat that actually coming back, the plantar fasciitis coming back. However, one really big factor in this argument is what kind of feet you have and what kind of shoes you've been wearing your whole life. So myself, for instance, I have a very, very high arch, as you probably saw earlier. which you would probably assume, okay, I'm going to wear quite a big arch support. But if you think about any arch bridge in history, for instance, any, doesn't even have to be in history, but any bridge you go to that is an arch shape, you will never see any support underneath that bridge. If you do, it's going to be a pretty weak bridge. Any arch design in anything really, doesn't have to be a bridge, you'll never see that support. And that's because the strongest way for an arch or arch bridge or whatever to function is to not have any support underneath. It's just how mechanically it works to make it stronger. So thinking about adding support underneath the arch of your foot, over time you imagine that it's actually going to weaken the arch. You remove that support, your foot is used to having that support in there, so you remove it, then you're going to feel a lot more strain. So if you're going to be wearing support, you're going to be wearing support pretty much your whole life. So consider, what have you been wearing your whole life? As I said, I have a high arch. However, I've walked around barefoot and in minimalist footwear pretty much the majority of my life, due to just the things that I've done. But my job, for instance, as a dive instructor, I'm walking around a lot in flip-flops or bare feet. By minimalist footwear, I mean something that is essentially flat, so from the heel to the toe in your shoe or footwear or whatever. A lot of the time you're going to have quite a high drop, anything up to 14 millimeters. Minimalist footwear is generally is a zero drop, or anything up to about 7 millimeters. But generally I've worn no footwear, or if I have, it's been very minimalist footwear. So my feet are quite used to being barefoot and being strengthened that way. So for you, maybe you have been wearing supported arch shoes all your life. So doing a barefoot technique to try and help get over this plantar fasciitis may not be the way to go for you. So even though I've been barefoot most of my life, there is no way I think I could have got through or where I'd got to in my treatment so far without some sort of insole in there. I think when you have been in barefoot or minimalist footwear most of your life, I think it's a good idea, once you've got through most of the healing, to go back to trying to strengthen the foot that way, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm actually doing part in insoles now, part without. But I wouldn't try and do it just barefoot the whole time. I think it's going to be way too painful for you at first, and I think you're probably going to risk furthering the damage. I actually think having an insole in there could take some of that pressure off and just allow you to get that initial healing out the way first. What I find now is that when I'm at work for 8-9 hours a day on my feet, I'm wearing the insoles, and then I'm coming home, stretching my feet, and then I'm walking around barefoot for the rest of the day. However, the first few weeks I was pretty much wearing insoles from the moment I got out of bed to until I got back in bed at night. So yes, consider what kind of foot you have and what's going to work for you. Orthotics. So when I talk about orthotics, you're talking about having an insole pretty much specially made for you. They're going to contour your foot and have it perfectly made for you. These can run into the hundreds of dollars. My personal opinion is I don't think you need to go down that route unless you have some sort of actual physical deformity that really requires you to have that. Just a general average person with plantar fasciitis, I think there's some really good ones on the market that are cheap enough. I'll talk about those later, and you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. Like, I would say for a good pair, maybe maximum $50. It's going to last you a year or two, depending on how often you use it. So I would say don't drop that money right away if you don't have to. So what kind of shoes should you be wearing, just generally in day to day? I haven't really seen any confliction on this, other than people saying don't wear shoes, go barefoot. But I thought I would just give a couple of examples of what I consider to be not the best shoe to wear, and what is the best shoe to wear. So it seems like I'm probably ragging on Nike a lot recently. I'm not. I actually really love this shoe. I ran in it a lot and got some really good miles out of it, and I probably will continue to run in it again once I'm done. However, in terms of treatment and getting over plantar fasciitis, this is probably an example of not a good shoe to be walking around in. Not a lot of cushioning inside at all, but a really good test to see if the shoe is going to be right for you is a bend test. So you want to have from the back up to about this point of the shoe wants to be nice and stiff to stop really the foot from bending so much. So this one, for instance, you can see I can fold it all the way up pretty much. There's no real hard support in there. So while it's a great shoe for me to run in sometimes, this is not really an ideal shoe for you if you're looking at wearing something while you're just getting over plantar fasciitis. This one, however, is one that I bought just after I got plantar fasciitis, because I wanted to have something A, to run in afterwards, but B, to help me get over it. And New Balance is actually really good generally for a lot of their shoes. So there's a lot of cushioning inside. It's got a really nice foam bottom to it, and when you bend the shoe, you can see it stays stiff all the way up to this point here, and that's what you want. You want something which is not going to bend past that point. It's just going to lessen the movement of your foot and really help when it comes to healing. So rest or keep moving. I certainly think if you can take some time off at first when your foot is really swollen, if you can afford to take time off work, or if you can work from home, then I would certainly recommend to do it. I took a week off. I think I took that week off probably a bit too late. Like I got through most of the healing process by that point. I wish I'd taken the time off earlier, and I think maybe I'd have progressed a little bit more with the healing. So I'd say right away, if you can take time off, do it. I mean, if you're able to take a lot more time off work, then that's great for you. Really getting off your feet for like 8 hours a day is what you want to try and avoid. So if you have a job where you're sitting at a desk all day, it might not be good for other parts of your body, but it may be good for you you can still carry on working okay. For myself though, I'm on my feet all day. I was wearing steel toe cap boots for a lot of my job at one point, so it really wasn't the best thing for me to be on my feet all day. That said, you don't want to just be stagnant in one position all day. You do need to get that foot moving. The stretching is going to help, but I think getting up and walking around at least a little bit is going to be good for you. I actually moved a fair bit. I just got very bored and tiresome lying down. Listen to your body is the only thing I would say. Like, if you're going to go out, don't go too far, so you're able to get back. And yeah, listen to your body and see how you feel. So how long does it take to cure? I don't know yet. From reading a lot of people's experiences, it's taken people anything from a very mild case of a few months to some people have said it's taken them over a year. I think that if you put all the steps into place for you and you're really diligent with everything, you can get to a comfortable point, hopefully within a few months. I would say just don't push yourself too much. It's very easy to get frustrated and try to do more than you're capable of just because you want to get back to normality of life. I haven't been running in about 7 weeks, and trust me, there's nothing I want to do more right now than go for a run. Even when I'm walking around with these shoes on, sometimes I might catch myself kind of going a little bit faster and then having to stop myself, because I want to be able to run properly in the long run. And if I do too much now, I'm not helping myself out at all. So the answer to that really is there is no answer. It depends how bad your case is, how quickly you treat it. Just expect that it could be a recurring problem for you. and that it's going to be at least something which niggles at you for 3 to 6 months, I'd say, easy. I'm probably planning to get to a point where I'm like ultimately pain free, like I can prod around in my foot and can't feel anything, and then I'll start doing light runs. If you're just if you're not athletic and you're just trying to get on with your daily life, you may be able to do certain things you do a little bit sooner than I would. Yeah, so I think that covers pretty much most things. The next video we're going to talk about what I've done stretch wise, what I used in terms of rollers. There's some really great techniques you can use in terms of rolling for the muscles, and we'll take a look at some insoles, ones I think are good and ones I would avoid. So thanks for stopping by. Check out the next video if you're looking for some good stretches and what's worked for me, and I'll see you next time.